again, folks. And what's that I smell? Could it be French roast? Perhaps from a French press? Another pun! So a special thank you to those folks who chipped in for today's cup of coffee. Put your name on the screen there. Thank you, thank you. You have fueled what I think is going to be a fun trip through French philately. And we're going to start with a remarkable scene in Paris. It is September 1871, the second month of the Franco-Prussian War. Already the Prussian army has captured Napoleon III, and his Second Empire is in shambles. But Parisians have formed the Government of National Defense to continue the fight. Some apparently think that Otto von Bismarck provoked the French into declaring war so that he could consolidate control over 4 independent states: Baden, Hesse-Darmstadt, Württemberg, and Bavaria. It was a bad decision, as the Second Empire collapsed quickly following their defeat at the Battle of Sedan. But Parisians continued the fight, and on September 19th, the Prussian army laid siege to the city. They cut the overhead telegraph lines, and the secret cable in the bed of the Seine River was located and severed on the 27th. In the early days of the siege, some intrepid mail carriers actually tried to break through enemy lines in order to bring news into and out of Paris. Some were actually captured and executed. Their postmaster then came up with an ingenious plan. He climbed to the top of the tower of the post office in Paris and installed a pigeon coop. So began the fabled Pigeon Post of the Franco-Prussian War. First, a free balloon carrying a pilot, a passenger, and a crate of pigeons was sent over enemy lines. They then returned carrying news from outside the city, and this system gradually evolved to include micro-photographed messages attached to the pigeons' legs. But in the early days, they actually tied letters in a bundle to the pigeon's tail and sent them flying. Maybe Amazon's plan to deliver packages via a fleet of drones isn't too outlandish of an idea after all. But back to Paris. It's January 1872, and the Prussian army sends an estimated 12,000 shells into the city in 1 month alone. Can you imagine? Between the hunger and the cold and the destruction, what a miserable time to be in the city. And how uplifting it must have been to receive a letter delivered by Pigeon Post, or its companion Balloon Post. It was the first time ever that mail was delivered by an aircraft. Now, about the stamps they used. In November 1870, the printing of French stamps was relocated to Bordeaux to provide stamps to the non-occupied portion of France. There's a link in the description of this video to a wonderful blog post written about the topic. Be sure to check it out. Rather than use the more expensive typography method of printing stamps, the emerging Third Republic used lithography instead and repurposed the series design from the 1849 to 1850 series. Again, they boldly proclaimed Repub Franc at the top of each stamp. The Bordeaux series stamps look almost identical to the French colonies' imperforated stamps from 1872 to 1877, but there's a few key differences. First, lithography produced a flat, less attractive stamp than those printed by typography. And so once you get the hang of it, you can identify these pretty quickly by the overall quality of the design. But second, the Bordeaux series has more shading around Ceres' eyes, and the shading in her neck is made by a series of lines, not dots. Just imagine, could one of these have hung on the tail of a pigeon? I mean, probably not, but it's fun to think about. The siege of Paris ended on January 28, 1871, with the fall of Paris to Prussian forces. Its defeat led to the rise of the Third French Republic and a vast reshaping of the geopolitical landscape of Europe that would continue to have ripple effects well into the 19th and then the 20th centuries. Speaking of 20th centuries, since this is my collection of French stamps video, let's look at some newer stamps too. I am sure I am not alone in thinking that some of the French stamps are just so beautiful. The later designs include a lot of wonderful works of art, so it really is like you're looking at a miniature piece of art when you review French stamps. And then they tend to also have really nice cancels, and so they can tell a story as well. I love that stamp. That is for the Cannes Film Festival in 1982. It's got a very cool socked on the nose cancel. Paris, Louvre, 1982. Ah, what a great stamp. All right, it's confession time here at Silk on the Web. I am embarrassed about the state of my French collection. I have two primary albums, these two, that I store my French stamps in. This one I bought at a stamp store for about 10 bucks. Yep, that's right. I got this stamp album for about 10 bucks because it was cherry-picked, and I've been adding to it over time. And then I have Robert's album here, which I have shown on my channel elsewhere. So those are the albums that you've seen so far, but that is not the entirety of my collection. And so, trigger warning. If you are one who does not like to see scattered stamps hither and thither, tune out. The rest of the video is not for you. But for the rest of you, I'll show you my collection of French stamps. Eventually, these will be in my card system that I have shown elsewhere on my channel, but I haven't gotten to it quite yet. But these are some very, very fine stamps in no particular order. Oh, look at that cancel. An even better cancel. Oh, isn't that great? Socked on the nose, Paris. With 1876, I believe that says. Oh, how cool is that? And then there is the series design with Republic Franc. Another great cancel. My first love in stamps was actually French stamps. I think the classic period French stamps are absolutely beautiful. The history is obviously very, very compelling. And they do look wonderful on an album page. It has been my intention to put these into a formal collection, and I just haven't gotten to it quite yet. In the comment section down below, feel free to let us know if there's anything you're embarrassed about when it comes to your stamp collection. What projects have you started that you haven't quite finished? Make me feel less bad about this, because I really want these to be in some sort of nice album. I haven't gotten to it yet. I will be putting these into my card system at some point because we are getting on some very, very fine stamps indeed. What I typically do is just put Mint Never Hinged at the top of my cards so that I don't have to pull them out to determine their condition. Look at that cancel. That's so cool. There you go. There is a particularly fine postage due stamp. That is the rose colored stamp. And then there is an absolutely beautiful, very fine mint never hinged postage due. That's a very sought after stamp. And an older one of the postage dues. I love that stamp. Isn't that just beautiful? Some of the French artwork is absolutely gorgeous on its stamps. And here are my collection of airmail stamps, including a very nice C2 and a C1. Oh, I love that stamp. And then into the semi-postals. The semi-postals are very sought after in French philately. And like most semi-postals, they tell quite a story of the funds that were raised and what they were supporting. It's a particularly nice one. And these absolutely belong in an album, or in a better preserved way than in stock cards, but all in due time. I'm trying to forgive myself. I do feel bad. I have had these in these cards for ages. And I have really wanted to display them better than this. But I just didn't get to it. Oh, look at that very fine stamp. Isn't that gorgeous? And there's the balloon. Oh, look at those ships. God. I love French philately. I just love it. The designs are gorgeous. And these absolutely should be put together. A lot of these stamps came in an album that I opened on my channel. I'll put a link in the description below. I got it for a song. I'll let you know. It was quite a deal. And I explained how I got it in that video. So do check it out. It's worth keeping an eye on because you can find gems. So thank you for joining me on this journey through French philately. I hope you enjoyed it. And a special thanks again to those of you who chipped in for today's coffee. If you like the video, please go ahead and like it, and do subscribe to the channel. It means a great deal to me. Until next time, take care.